sticky note.
Yeah, Katie was
there. You go. He's back.
Here we go. Roll Tide.
I'm literally going to kill myself.
We gotta get like a whiteboard.
I do this
on the wall.
I do this. This is like the 5th time in like 2 weeks.
We need a big neon sign that says "Hit the button."
Katie, I have this sticky note right here for the reason that you just said. Thank you. Well, first, okay, perfect. All right,
look, we're rolling now.
Clean slate. Katie Windham saves the show. You follow Katie Windham at Katie Windham _. This is the Joe Cather Show on Bama Central and BamaCentral.com. We just did a bunch of hooey about Wilkin Formby Sweat and Jaden Roberts Sweat of the Alabama offensive line. Golly, I'm really, really agitated at that. So we want to say hello to Katie and welcome her on the program. And we want to ask her where or what was the experience for the NCAA tournament that stands out to you off the floor. Obviously, you were in Cleveland, seeing Alabama win the first 2 games, Robert Morris and St. Mary's. Then you saw Alabama win against BYU up in Newark and lose to Duke. So how was the time covering the Crimson Tide in the NCAA tournament?
Honestly, it was a good time in both places. I felt like I was in Cleveland for forever because I was there from a Wednesday to a Monday, I think. But never thought I'd be in Cleveland that long for any reason. But it was. I wish that baseball would have been in town when we were there, and I know Will Miller wished that as well. He did. I don't know if y'all heard. Tried to get a little peek in the stadium and got quickly removed. But so off the court highlight was probably New York's one of my favorite cities in the world. My family loves going there. So we stayed in New York, and my sister got engaged on the day in between the games in Central Park. Yeah. So obviously that was fun. And then also getting to see some Broadway shows was pretty fun. Got to see The Outsiders on Friday night. I think it won Tony for Best New Musical last year. So it's kind of one of the.
I'm very The Outside. Is this based off of the book that I read in middle school, The Outsiders?
Yes, I think so. I'd never heard of the book, but a middle grade. Yeah, Pony Boy.
Oh yeah, great book.
And then on Saturday we saw Sunset Boulevard because Nicole Scherzinger's in it, and it had gotten really rave reviews from some people, but it wasn't really my family's cup of tea. I liked it. The rest of my family really didn't. But she was incredible.
That was the outside.
Incredible. But it was a little different. I don't know how it just presentation. It's a darker story. So, there's a lot of dark stuff in Outsiders too. But it was a fun trip.
Did they hit the line "Stay Golden, Pony Boy"?
Oh yeah,
that's the best.
I think so. That's like one of the songs. Actually, yeah.
That was like, I was the class example of like middle school kid that, you give me a book to read, I'm not going to read any of it. But for whatever reason, I decided to read that one in like 7th or 8th grade, and it has stuck with me all these years. It's a very, very good book.
I want to go read because I'm a big reader. I want to go read the book now after seeing the show.
There's a good movie about it with Emilio Estevez as well.
See, the movie apparently isn't a musical. It's just a movie. And my parents watched the movie before we went to New York, and they said it was just like very slow, the movie.
That's fair. It's probably pretty slow. I think I probably just liked the movie because I liked the book so much, and so.
Wasn't there like a knife fight in that book or something?
Yeah, the Rumble.
Right. Okay, I'm thinking this is 8th grade. Back to me. 8th grade middle school lit.
The Greasers, or what was it?
The Greasers and the Socials.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah. Yeah, all those pretty boys from the other side of town.
Oh, shoot. That was the school I went to. I went to the all-boys pretty boy school across town. Okay, so we had a lot of fun in New York and Broadway. But, Katie, let's put a bow. Let me get you your bow. We've tried many times to put a bow on this basketball season. What would you say? How would you encapsulate 2024-25 under Nate Oates?
It's so odd. That's kind of what I was going to do. I'll film after this, or maybe we'll use this clip. My just a minute on was, was this a successful season, or kind of how would you grade it? And it's tough because this time last year, Alabama had been to one Elite Eight ever. And it seemed like the Sweet 16 was the ceiling for this program. Obviously, they'd broken through one time, but that was it. And it seemed like, especially in 2023, when you had the number 1 overall seed and you're like, this is the team that's going to get Alabama to the Final Four, or at least past the Sweet 16, and then they lose to San Diego State. It just felt like, man, this program is cursed to end in the Sweet 16 every year. And then, obviously last year, the Final Four run. And then this year you make it back to the Elite Eight, which seeding-wise is where you're supposed to get. But, I mean, Nate Oates himself said it's Final Four or a disappointment. Talking to the players in the locker room after the games, or before the games, after the games from the SEC tournament on, they talked about, Nate had said since June last year when he first started putting this team together that the expectation was a national championship. The players would talk in the locker room after the games that, they wanted to get back to a Final Four, not just get back to a Final Four, but make it further and win. Even if they just made it back, it would be a disappointment. So it's tough because obviously only 8 teams in the country make the Elite Eight, but I think this team, when it got assembled, it was like there were so many expectations placed on this team, and a lot of them from Nate Oates, and he didn't shy away from them. A lot of coaches, especially in other sports, will shy away from expectations. They don't like talking about it. They don't like putting pressure on the team. But Nate wasn't afraid to do that. And this team had some really good moments this season, obviously beating Auburn in the regular season at the end, setting the NCAA record for threes in the Sweet 16 against BYU. Some of their non-conference wins early on, there were really high highs, but I do think I don't want to say the whole season was a disappointment, but I think relative to preseason expectations, it was. I think relative to what this team ended up being and relative to the injuries that they had, I think making the Elite Eight is great. But I think the fact that they didn't win the SEC regular season, they didn't win the SEC tournament, they didn't, obviously accomplish the goal of making it back to the Final Four. Obviously, I think there's some disappointment in that, and I think the players would say that, and I think Nate would say that. And it's just incredible, really, I guess, the new standard he's set for the program, that you have to ask after an Elite Eight, was this a disappointing season? I definitely wouldn't say it's a failure. I've seen some people say that. I think it's okay to say it's a disappointment, but it's not a failure. I think how many wins they had, some of the records they broke, kind of leading the nation in scoring all season. It was once again an exciting brand of basketball. Making the Elite Eight is not a failure, but it is a disappointment relative to what I think this team could have been. And I think the way you went out was a disappointment, and that, yes, obviously Duke is an incredible team, is going to have a really good shot at winning the national championship, but Alabama has played all the other 1 seeds. They've beaten some of them. They've been competitive with everyone. The fact that they kind of just got punched in the mouth early on in that game, and they were never able to get back in it, or anytime they tried, Duke had an answer. And, I maintain, which I'm sure y'all have talked about this on the show, like when it happened, I said, that's the game right there. When they had gone on the 7-0 run, cut it to 6 points, get a stop on Cooper Flagg, you have a chance to grab that rebound, score on the other end to cut it to possibly 1 possession. And not only do you not get the rebound, you let them shoot a 3, and just like that, you're down 9 again. And that was kind of if that was going to be your moment to cut into the lead, that was it. And then, or even, they're still down single digits at halftime, and then they come out, and I think they outscored Duke the first media timeout just 8-6. And so I was like, okay, maybe they're, and then it just, no. Duke was just too much. And so I think there is also a little bit of disappointment in how they lost, and the season ending in a kind of a blowout loss that they were never in the game.
I think from a player perspective, I totally understand the disappointment. Like you said, given the expectations going into the season, given the expectations that Nate Oates enforced throughout the season. But I think that a lot of fans should just be happy. Like you said, the where this basketball program is now, we are debating whether or not we should be disappointed over an Elite Eight berth. Like, for the players, it's a little different. You sat out there, you worked hard, you fought. None of these fans did any of that. Let's just be happy with where we're at.
I stressed. All my fingernails are gone.
That's on you. That's a you decision. Man, it's just, you said it perfectly. What Nate Oates, where he has taken this basketball program, is incredible, and we should all just be very, very happy that we are debating whether or not we're upset about getting knocked out of the Elite Eight.
On that, and to get you to set it back up to you, Katie, what did your father say, who has lived through this?
Yeah, I think, I felt bad because, since we stayed in New York, transportation was a little bit of a issue of trying to catch the last trains from New Jersey back to New York, and so he had to wait for me after the game on Saturday just so I didn't have to brave the New Jersey transit by myself, which I would have been able to do. But actually, at that time of night, it does get a little suspect in the bowels of the New Jersey transit. But anyway, so like kind of when we were debriefing after the game, it was super late, and I mean, kind of his hope going into the game was just that like it wouldn't be a blowout. I mean, I asked him after, the BYU game, like, can you believe Alabama's going to like be back in the Elite Eight? Because yeah, he was in college when they won the SEC tournament every year. I think they made the Sweet 16 2 out of his 3 years. And it also kind of felt like, a curse. And so, I think he was overall happy with the Elite Eight. I think he didn't necessarily have expectations that they were going to get past that. I mean, he'd had a hotel booked in San Antonio since I think Alabama got Cliff, but I was able to pass it on to some Auburn fans this week, I think. It's what you're saying, Mason, of like it's almost like the Saban effect where he just like completely reset expectations and what the standard is. And then I think also to the point of, if people are disappointed, look, Nate has taken them to a Sweet 16 every year except for the J.D. Davison year in 2022. And it would be interesting to hear Nate's unfiltered thoughts on that team in that season. But like a lot of coaches can put together good teams and then they completely fall apart anyway in the regular season, or much less cannot have tournament success. I mean, even look at, not to throw shade at Auburn because obviously they're sitting in the Final Four this year, but I mean, this is just the second time Bruce, and how many years has he been there? 11, 12? That Auburn's made it past the first weekend under Bruce. Like, he has not been able to get Auburn to the Sweet 16 besides the last Final Four year, and which was in 2019, and then this year. So it's like the consistency Nate's had in not only putting together good teams, getting to the postseason, but getting to the second weekend, I think is something that, the meme of I used to pray for times like this is like how most Alabama basketball fans are feeling, that like this is becoming regular, this is becoming a disappointment. And it's like, but it's not really a disappointment in the grand scheme of things. I think really last year it was kind of that Alabama team had such low expectations, momentum heading into the postseason. Like they'd lost so many games towards the end of the regular season, got blown out by Florida in the SEC tournament without winning a game there. And so I think a lot of teams had kind of like tentatively stepped back from that team. And then they just like shocked everyone in the postseason. And so it was like this huge thrill. Anytime Alabama made the Final Four was going to be a huge thrill. But in that specific circumstance, I think it was. And so I think this year, just because of preseason expectations, it's a little different. But I think if you're a longtime Alabama basketball fan like my dad is, I think you are overall. You're happy with this season. A little disappointed that it doesn't end in the Final Four. But, I think it's another good step for this program. You're one step short of a Final Four, which obviously with this roster they assembled, that's what you want. But also this roster they assembled, it's not like it was a super high-end NIL budget roster. It was, I mean, some guys were getting paid a lot, but overall it's not like it was this mega team like Ohio State had in football or like some other programs are building and just pouring excessive money into basketball, which that's going to be something interesting to watch moving forward, is how much does Alabama spend on a basketball roster, which I don't know if we'll ever know, completely transparent numbers. You hear all sorts of things. But I think that's another challenge that Nate's going to have to kind of overcome, is that Alabama is going to be a big spender in basketball, but not the biggest. But football's the same way. So
we're hanging out with Katie Windham. You can follow her at Katie Windham _ on the Twitter machine. She's covering all things Crimson Tide for Alabama Crimson Tide on SI. Something just happened in my ear with it, but that's okay. Right there for Alabama Crimson Tide on SI, right for us at Bama Central. As we move on from basketball, men's basketball, obviously we've got fallout. Hunter will be left with, there we go. Hunter will be left with, something just happened. Hunter will be left with the transfer news. We've been debating Rylan Griffin, if we want him back or not. We've been kind of noticing what we're going to see with Corey Chest or some of these other players. You got Noah Williamson, who's already transferred in. Katie, I want to transition with you to football, to spring football, because that's where we're going next. We've got Alabama's A-Day/practice next Saturday. You were with us in the Mount Moore Athletic Facility yesterday. Mason and I have been struggling pretty hard through spring practice with what is a good storyline to talk about. What's an approach? Because I don't like selling you know, I don't want you just drumming up false narratives. I don't. And so I've been having a hard time selling a quarterback battle. I've been having a hard time selling, you know, question marks on the offensive line, and I've really been having a hard time selling question marks on the defensive side of the football. So you're the expert for us at Bama Central. What are you looking for with spring football as you've got 6 months until it really gets going?
I mean, I think those all are valid question marks, like the quarterback competition, who's going to play where on the offensive line, especially this spring with injuries, and then, you know, who's filling in on defense, especially with injuries. But the thing is, we don't have the answers to those questions because we're not given, you know, enough access to see, and then we're not going to be really with whatever format they give us at A-Day. So, yeah, this spring I feel like has been really tough from a media perspective of just like, and it's not that Alabama's like withholding anything necessarily or it's less access than we have had. It's just like in the spring, there's just when you can't see anything of this team, you're almost just going in blind to every like press conference. When first of all, you don't even know ahead of time who you're talking to. So it's like not like you can like uber prepare, and then like you haven't seen anything since the last time you talked to these guys. So like, you know, like what is there to talk about? I think, well, depending on what they do for A-Day, like maybe that'll give us a little clearer answer on, you know, the quarterbacks. And it's so hard to know what to believe because you really hear everything about, oh, this guy's leading, this guy's definitely out. I mean, my thought has been since before spring started that it will be Ty Simpson. At least it'll be Ty Simpson to start the year. And it's like,
Sorry, Nathan.
Not even necessarily because, like, I was talking about this with somebody yesterday. What Ty Simpson has done in staying at Alabama is unprecedented, and really for a quarterback at almost any time, but much less in this era of college football with the portal and with how much a guy that's got a scholarship at Alabama can get an NIL to go play somewhere else. But I don't think that this staff necessarily feels like they owes him any sort of loyalty because they didn't recruit him here. You know, they weren't here for the first couple of years of his development. Obviously, this is now their second year with him. But if he gets the job, I don't think it'll be out of obligation. I think it'll be because he's the best guy. And, you know, you hear the argument all the time about Alabama's quarterback situation obviously wasn't ideal, you know, the last couple of years. And I think people think if Ty couldn't beat that out, then he must not be good. But I think Alabama's quarterback situation was very unique the last 2 years, especially last year with, I think Kalen DeBoer was kind of had his hands tied behind his back a little bit. But I think in that regard, this season, if, you know, Ty gets the job and it's not working out, I don't think there will be any reason to be loyal to him and that they will make a change, like for truly whatever's best for the team. Not that I'm saying I don't think last year's coaching staff wasn't trying to do what's best for the team. I think maybe what was best for the team, I don't know. Y'all all know what I'm talking about.
I think we know what you're getting at. Like it was last year, you had a much different dynamic between Jalen Milroe and the coaching staff, and now Ty Simpson and the coaching staff.
Well, I think it's a matter of do you disrupt everything for minimal win gain, or keep, you know, I think the coaching staff played it correctly. We've talked about it a bunch throughout the spring, the spring and off season. All right, so we've got football activity next Saturday. Let me just get your perspective on. I don't want to poison the well. I'll just ask you, what do you think about the changes for A-Day, and like what do you make of? Hey, we're changing A-Day.
I think it's pretty lame, but I mean, it's not like it's just Alabama that's doing this. So, I mean, I guess at least there's still, you know, it's free to the public. It's the stadium will be open for people that don't maybe necessarily get to come in the stadium a ton and see the team up close. I'll be really interested from like a media perspective to see what it's like for us next Saturday, just how much in a way it'll be nice because then we won't be sitting there trying to like cover a game like we normally would, like, because there won't be a game to cover. Like obviously it was always a scrimmage, not like a real game, but there was still Team A versus Team B, Crimson versus White, like real, you know, first, second, third down going on. So, yeah, I mean, I don't love it, but it's also not, I don't think, the end of the world. It's not like there's people that are just like spring game diehards every year that are like, this is like the highlight of my life. Like, I live for the spring game. Like, I think it's, if you're a diehard football fan and don't care at all about other sports, It's probably good because it gave you a kind of your taste of football before we go into the off season. But yeah, it just is what it is, and something I think we're gonna have to get used to.
I think that we'll see more football.
I think so too.
I think we'll see more of what we want to see from a media perspective, rather than how valuable. Sorry, Dylan, but how valuable were the Dylan Lonergan reps last year in A-Day? It ended up not being worth anyone's time because of the transfer portal. I think you'll see the quarterbacks getting more reps. I think it'll be a faster pace than a traditional game, and I think it's going to work out better for us.
We'll see. I like the positive view of the optimism.
Yeah, well, I just think that you can throw them in, get your units on the sidelines, throw them back out there. I think there will be some live elements to it, but it'll be largely like a lot like a practice.
I mean, I still think they're not going to show us anything they don't want us to see, if that makes sense. I mean, that's kind of like
That's true.
This is very true.
No, Danny Lewis, superstar Danny Lewis and Caleb Edwards. Caleb Edwards, Edwards.
Or like they're just gonna like if like the first quarterback drill or whatever they do, if it's like tie first, and everybody's gonna be like, oh, tie's number one. Then like the next time they run through the drill, like they'll have Austin Mack second or Keelan Russell or whatever. Like I think they're gonna, they love kind of. And this, because it's open to the public, won't just be like directed to the media. It'll be towards like anyone across the country that's they don't, which not that it's going to be on TV, but I'm sure stuff will get posted. I think they still haven't sent us specific media policies for A-Day yet, right? So
right.
It'll be interesting to see if they kind of what the video policy is, what they say we
I'm
can.
be sitting there on the 50-yard line with my camera, just going back and forth.
Yeah,
and get myself in big trouble.
Have something against that. Yeah.
I think that would be a big no. We hope you are all in Bryant-Denny Stadium on April 12th to watch the A-Day. If you're not in Bryant-Denny Stadium, maybe you will go to the Rhodes House on April 12th. Katie Windham has been, God, I don't know how you juggle all of the sports: men's basketball, gymnastics, softball, spring football, really everything. And also another job on the side as well. Oh, and I'm planning a wedding as well. So just dealing with all kinds of things, Katie Windham. Tell us what's your thought on softball. You've been a little bit out of the loop just the last 2 weeks with softball, but still watching. You were there on Tuesday. The ladies will play LSU this weekend. It's a big series for the ladies, and then of course the biggest series of the season. Alabama bringing Oklahoma into the Rhodes House. What's that? April 12th weekend. So just where are you feeling on the softball team? You got your first SEC series victory last weekend. Can they take that momentum into the rest of the year and maybe start to build on some things?
Really, I should have you cover softball more, because if they win, I never saw them win an SEC series last year, because I think we were in Phoenix for the when they swept Ole Miss last year, which was the last time they won an SEC series. But yeah, I mean, it's huge that they got that win. The thing about this team, and I think people that either haven't watched all year or just see the box scores or whatever, is like, hey, great example is the Sunday game. I think they scored first. We're up 1-0. Then they're down 4-1. So they're down 3 runs. They're going to have to score at least 4 more runs to win. Basically, anytime the last 3 seasons, if they need to score 4 runs to win, they're screwed. That's not happening. That team did not score more than 3 runs. Or those teams, the last 3 seasons teams. It was very rare for them in SEC play when they're facing good pitchers to score more than 3 runs. And that's the difference with this year's team, is if they get down, which the pitching is not as good, so they do, the game's not over. They can come back. They have that ability. Where in the past, comebacks were so unlikely just because they could not hit the ball. This team can hit the ball. They obviously, a ton has been made about the stolen bases led by Audrey Vandegrift. So they can hit the ball, they get the ball in play, they can cause havoc on the base pass, and they can score runs. The problem has been, do they have reliable pitching? The answer so far has been no. But I think they can. Jocelyn Brisky can be that. We saw that last year in her when she was a true freshman going against some of the best teams in the country. We've seen it at times this year in the best teams in the country. It's almost like a mental block where she just cannot close out games this year. Because I think it was Sunday when I landed, Alabama was up 8-4, and so then the screen on the plane or the live TV stopped working because we had landed. And then as I'm getting off the plane, I see that his base is loaded with no outs or 1 out. And it's just like they just cannot make it easy to close the game. And then on Tuesday night, it was a doubleheader against Alabama State and Samford. And Alabama State came in 8-26 on the year. Their starting pitcher had like an ERA that was literally almost 9. Like they're just not a good team at all. And Alabama only won 6-4. I think they got up in that game 3-0. And then we're down 4-3. They had an inning. Ailey Johnson got the start. I think she retired the first 8 batters. Then a 2-out walk just started a spiral and hits and errors. And Alabama State, who was 8-26 on the year, is up 4-3. And that really started. I've covered Murph long enough that like I can read his body language and like I could just tell like he was about ready to just walk off the field on Tuesday night. Kind of at that point, they responded the next inning to go up 6-4, but. I mean, that's the game they should have run ruled in 5 innings. Like, just the caliber of Alabama, the caliber of Alabama State, the talent on Alabama. How the starting pitcher for Alabama State was throwing no higher than 55 miles an hour. Those girls have been hitting that since they were in 9th grade. I mean, that's batting practice for them. They should be crushing that.
Yeah.
And they just like weren't. And I think that was maybe just kind of a lack of focus on Tuesday. And then in the second game at Samford, they get up 7-0. And, in softball, there's the run rule of 8 runs after 5 innings. They're up 7-0 heading into the or in the 5th, I think, and they had a no-hitter going at that point. And so if they can score 1 run in the bottom of the 5th inning, the game's over. They can't score. It goes into the 6th. There's some errors. And then I think they gave up 3 runs or something. And so there's errors and free passes. And so then the run rule is no longer in play for that game. So we had to play a full 7 innings. I didn't have to play. I had to cover a full 7 innings of that game. So I went to get to go home early. And so talking to Murph after the game, I was just like, what's the deal with the team not being able to close things out? And he said, this has been his thing for literally weeks now, almost every loss this season. He said it's the free passes, the walks, and the errors. He said we cannot do that. And so that's kind of the biggest hurdle holding this team back. I think in the Georgia series, for the most part, they played clean defense. Was it the last game they had a couple errors? Or I know there was a lot of wonky stuff in that last Georgia game.
2 errors I think on the Saturday day, but Sunday was clean. But there was one of the days there were 2 errors.
Yeah, which I think it was in the game they won. But
okay, yeah.
All that to say, if they can get a little more pitching consistency, I think they can get back in a spot of hosting for regionals, and they technically are right now. I think they're 16, the RPI. They have a really good strength of schedule, but they're going to have to pile up some more wins, probably win a couple more series. And the thing is with the SEC this year, there's a ton of parity. I mean, you talked about Oklahoma coming next week. Obviously, Oklahoma's, I don't know the number off the top of my head, but I would guess in the last 4 seasons when they've won the last 4 national championships, they've lost less than 10 games combined. I would almost be certain across those 4 seasons. And, this year they just lost a home series to Tennessee. They lost a game to Missouri, who's at the very bottom of the SEC. And it's like, that would have never happened at the Big 12. I think the only winless team now is Auburn in SEC play. So it's like anyone can beat anyone. And this Alabama team has the hitting, and they have the pitching potential to beat anyone. Now, LSU this weekend is a place they historically have not had a lot of success. LSU, though, is kind of reeling. They lost a home series to South Carolina last week. I think they won last night. They were losing to McNeese State late, but I think they came back. So I think they've got to win at least one this weekend. Obviously, ideal would be to win the series, but I think they've got to win at least one. And then next weekend, you cannot be intimidated by Oklahoma coming in. And it's a great opportunity at home. Oklahoma has shown this season they're beatable, they're fallible. They really need to win that series at home next week. I don't know if that's fair to say, and Murph hates the word expectation, so I'm not going to put that on them, but it's a huge opportunity at home. And this team, if you've been turned off from softball the last couple of years, if it's frustrated you too much to watch, this team, in my opinion, is more enjoyable to watch because they do score runs. And it's not every inning 3 up, 3 down. People do get on base. Things do happen. You may just have to deal with a little bit more back and forth games because it's not going to be your Montana Fouts going out there throwing 7 innings, giving up 0-1 runs. That's just not what this team is. It's constant pitching changes, but it's at least a little more exciting and competitive, I feel like, and they're kind of in every game with a chance to win.
It was my first in-person experience with Audrey Vandegrift since she's been on campus. That young lady is worth the price of admission. That is the definition of an athlete right there. I'm very impressed with watching her play.
Yeah, for Tuesday she didn't start the first game. I think just because Alabama State is so bad, he was no disrespect to them. So
the record is not that good.
They're not overall. I shouldn't say they're so bad. They're not good.
They've struggled.
So he had a different lineup for that first game, I think, to kind of give some players the last opportunity to prove themselves as Alabama's entering the home stretch. With I think their only non-conference game left is at Alabama State. They don't have any more home non-conference midweek games left. So it's kind of girls' last opportunity. Okay, show me what you got. Will you provide something valuable in the lineup the rest of the season, or are you? And some girls did not answer the bell. But Audrey was not in the lineup for the first game. She was in the second game and got on base all 4 times, had 3 more stolen bases. I mean, a bunt single is almost automatic for her, which that's the Alabama has been missing the last couple of years, is somebody that could just consistently get on base. But she also can swing away, hit for power. Like it's not. She's not a one-tool athlete. She has them all, and so that's obviously valuable to have at the top of the lineup.
She's been a breath of fresh air, and she definitely was over the weekend for me watching the games. Let's start to round you out. We're hanging out with Katie Windham, and we appreciate her time right here on the Joe Gaither Show. You follow Katie Windham at Katie Windham _. She's covering really every sport of the Capstone for Bama Central, Alabama Crimson Tide on SI. She's leading all of our coverage for Bama Central. We appreciate her time. One more sport that we haven't really talked a whole lot about, but it is postseason time. I'm in Coleman Coliseum yesterday writing something up for football, and it's all decorated for NCAA regional / tournament for gymnastics. I know the gymnastics team has not lived up to the expectation that we were hoping for, but they're still there in the postseason. Give us kind of an update for people who have not paid attention to gymnastics, where they're at and kind of how this season is kind of landing.
Yeah, so gymnastics regional sites are determined preseason. It's not based on seeding. That's why Alabama's getting to host. It's not like baseball or softball or women's basketball where if you're a certain seed, you get to host. Like the 4 sites are predetermined before the season, and Tuscaloosa is often a host for gymnastics just because the size of Coleman and kind of the history of Alabama gymnastics. Which one of the hosts is Washington this year, and they didn't even make the NCAA tournament because their NQS wasn't high enough. So that's kind of a bummer for them the hosting sites aren't based on seeding, but no matter where you get seated, you go to your host site, if that makes sense. Because obviously, if Tuscaloosa is hosting, it wouldn't make sense to send Alabama to Seattle, or I think Penn State's one of the other hosts, or maybe it's West Virginia or something, or wherever it is. So the seating gets slightly rearranged depending on who's hosting, but that's why it's in Tuscaloosa, not because Alabama was great this year, because they weren't. They had a very up and down season with a lot of downs for a while. They lost, I think, every SEC meet except for one, which is obviously wins and losses don't matter as much in gymnastics, but still no one likes losing. And then, people, especially in Alabama, don't like losing. And so, but it's kind of like softball. This team has the potential this weekend. The fact that they're in Tuscaloosa this weekend is huge, though, because seeding-wise, they should not advance past this weekend because you have 3-seed Florida, 6-seed Cal, I believe, coming. So those should be the 2 teams that advance. So today there's a meet with just 2 teams that one of them, it's kind of like the play-in game in the NCAA tournament for basketball. Like one of these 2 teams, whoever wins today will get to be in one of the sessions tomorrow. So tomorrow there'll be 2 sessions of 4. 2 teams will advance from each session to the regional final on Sunday, where 2 teams will advance to nationals. So chalk-wise, it should be Florida and Cal. But because you're at home, you have the crowd behind you. It's your equipment you're familiar with. Teams always kind of get scored higher at home. It is an opportunity for Alabama to advance to nationals, despite the disappointment of this whole season. They got there last year in Luisa Blanco and Macquarie Doggett's and Ella Burgess's last year, and then had like a complete come apart on the balance beam. So I think as far as expectations, I feel like I've been talking about that a lot this episode. I'd say they're low for this team. I think it would be a big accomplishment if they could get back to nationals, which I think they can. This team can score well. They've just also struggled to be consistent. And so I think this weekend's a big opportunity, which Friday the meet's at 1:00. So a little lunch break gymnastics, get over to Coleman. And then I think Sunday would be sometime in the evening. But they should for sure advance out of this first session, because you're going against teams that just don't have a high scoring ceiling. So unless you have a meltdown on beam or something, you should advance out of this first session. And it's kind of like you're going against teams that are their scoring potential is so low that like even if you have to count a fall, you still could maybe advance. So they should make it to Sunday, and then Sunday will kind of be the key. Can they beat Cal or Florida to advance to NCAA finals in Fort Worth, I believe.
Well, we know that you will be all over it, BamaCentral.com. Katie Windham, you follow her at Katie Windham _ really covering all the sports at the Capstone, but football, men's and women's basketball, softball, gymnastics, really everything. Katie Windham is all over it. Katie, I really appreciate your time today. I appreciate you saving the episode with the sound. I'm just going to, what we're going to do is we'll flip-flop it. We'll put the quality at the front, and we'll tell everybody if they want to hear the nonsense, they can stick with us, and we'll just flip-flop it. So I appreciate your time and saving the episode today. Everybody go follow Katie Windham _ on the Twitter machine.
Yeah, of course. No worries. Maybe just need to, I don't know, do 4 sticky notes or something. Just also
how to figure something.
That's exactly what this is here for. Tell me. Oh, well. Thank you for your time, and we'll catch up with you very, very soon. Next Thursday, we want to talk about. Yeah. We had talked about it weekly, and then the NCAA happened, and tournament happened, and you were traveling, and that just kind of threw a wrench in everything.
Yeah. Next Thursday should be good.
Sounds good. We'll talk to Katie Windham next Thursday. That will be right on the precipice of Alabama and Oklahoma. And 8A, we'll have a little bit of update. We'll know if gymnastics has made it through regionals or not. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We'll talk to Katie Windham next Thursday. Thank you so much for your time, Katie. Have a great day.
Thanks, guys.
Absolutely. That's Katie Windham joining us. And we want to do a little maintenance here to make the episode work. So what we're going to do is tell you guys, thank you very much for listening to us. The Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central, BamaCentral.com. Thanks to Mason Woods. Oh, gosh. All right. We had a lot of fun. Here's what we're going to do. This episode is going to be presented with Katie Windham up front. So when you hear this jump scare, we're going away, and we're going to play the first 30-ish minutes of the episode right here, where our microphones... I hate myself for this because it just really ruins the rest of my day. Our microphones were not dialed in exactly right. So the first 30 minutes of fun were a little bit sounding like we're in a cave. It just sounds like we're in this big room talking into this computer and like, I hate it. And
that's the effect we're going for.
And the listeners hate it too. Like to me, if I were
like a concert hall effect, it's
if I were listening, it would be an immediate, not today, gone. And
we'll get it figured out.
So that's what it drives me nuts because all day I'm going to be sitting here thinking some first-time listener heard it for the first time and they thought, we're not listening to this show again. But I think if we do it this way, we put Katie's up front and we just flip-flop it, it'll be okay. Because of that, we need to tell you that we're proudly sponsored by Warren Tire and Auto. They've been a Tuscaloosa and University of Alabama staple since 1961. They're in their 3rd generation of family ownership. Warren Tire is your go-to place for all your automotive needs. Russ Warren's hanging out right there on 15th Street. On 15th Street, they're doing tires, brakes, and alignment. You want to make sure your tires are right, your brakes are right, and everything is aligned just right. See them on 15th Street for new tires, brake work, and alignment, or see them on University Boulevard for front-end work, for electrical, for engine work, oil changes. You can call them and set up your appointment today. 15th Street at 205-759-5505. University Boulevard, 205-758-2739. 2 great locations to get you in and out and back on the road. Warren Tire and Auto, the premier place for all your automotive services. You follow Mason Woods at MAWoods _. We're getting out of here for the day. We're turning it over to the initial part of the episode that we messed up audio-wise. And so we hope you enjoyed that. If you stick with us for this part, great. If you don't, I really, really don't blame you. We'll talk to you tomorrow right here on the Joe Gaither Show. Oh, 2 seconds real quick. Because this afternoon we will have an audio. We will get it correct. And tomorrow we're going to play our interview. We're interviewing this afternoon Jalen Brewster. Jalen Brewster looks like Ashawn Robinson's younger brother. 6'4", 277 pounds, a rising junior out of Cedar Hill, Texas. Give me 2 seconds on Jalen Brewster, as you will hear his interview tomorrow on the Joe Gaither Show. What have you learned about Jalen Brewster real quick to tease the people? I see Oklahoma, SMU, Texas, Baylor, Alabama.
I think there are a lot of teams that want this guy very bad.
Okay.
And he is, like we said, rising junior, already 6'4", 277, like an absolute unit at 16 years old, 17 years old, whatever he is right now.
Well, Mason Woods did a great job And I really want to make that clear. Mason Woods did a great job helping us get set up with him. We're going to talk to him this afternoon, and we will play it on the Friday episode right here on the Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central and BamaCentral.com. It was like one of those situations where it's like, I don't want to stand real
This
close
is
to you.
the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral.com.
Welcome in. Good morning. This is the Joe Gaither Show right here on Bama Central, BamaCentral.com. How we doing today? It's Thursday. We're live in the Derry Daniels Farm Studios. You guys are checking us out on the Bama Central YouTube channel. You're listening to us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon, the Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central, wherever you get your podcasts. You can go ahead, subscribe, rate, review. I know all those buttons are in different places on different platforms, but it makes me so happy to see everybody who has subscribed, rated, and reviewed the show on your favorite podcast platform. We're also live on the Bama Central Facebook channel, on my own social media machines at Joe Gaither 6. You can always send us a comment, question, query, or complaint to the show right there. If you want to get involved in the show, we're going to have a lot of fun today. We are live in the Derry Daniel State Farm Studios with Mason Woods. You follow Mason Woods at MAWoods_ on the Twitter machine. We appreciate Derek for sponsoring the program. You call Derek for your insurance needs, home, life, auto insurance needs, 205-758-3391 for all of your insurance needs. We are going to have, hopefully, a little bit of fun today. With you, with Mason Woods. We're going to talk about sweat. We talked to two offensive linemen yesterday and a defensive lineman. Well, edge rusher. You want to call Quay Russaw a defensive lineman, you can. But they were all nasty yesterday walking off the practice field. So we will start there. We'll talk about what we heard from the three players. And we'll talk about, is Coastal Carolina, are they Conference USA? No, they're in the American Conference now, aren't they? We're going to talk about Coastal Carolina, what the Chanticleers are doing to attract more fans. The Sun Belt. Oh, gosh. 0 for 2, Joe. 0 for 2. 1 for 3 with the Sun Belt. The Chanticleers. What a great name. The Chanticleers. Put your pinkies up and get your champagne glasses. We're going to cheer on the Chanticleers. Are you a fan of teal field? No. I'm not a fan of any colored field at all.
Teal field because it's close enough. Like blue is too jarring, it's too far away from green. Red too far away from green. The purple and gray striped one at like Central Washington or whatever it is. No, I think the teal is fine. I do like the teal because it's like almost green,
close enough to where
it doesn't hurt my eyes too much.
I could trick my brain into believing.
Yeah, when they wear the all black uniforms on it too, that looks pretty good.
Do you think there's going to be fans in the building there this year?
What they do last year?
I don't even care what they did last year. I'm thinking about the homeless, the hungry, the starving in Coastal Carolina. They're right there. That's Myrtle Beach, right? I'm pretty positive that's like 20-30 minutes from Myrtle Beach is Coastal Carolina. Well, we're going to talk about Coastal Carolina. I'm pretty sure that's right next to Myrtle Beach. We're also going to talk about Connor Stallions. And then we are going to hear from our friend Katie Windham. Katie Windham was all over the East Coast covering Alabama basketball. She was right there at the Rhodes House yesterday or Tuesday watching Alabama softball complete their doubleheader. She's been all over, really all the sports: gymnastics, softball, basketball, baseball, football. We'll hear from Katie Windham at about 8:35, 8:40 or so. All right. I wanted to start with sweat because we wanted to start with real Alabama football. And we were in the Malmore Athletic Facility yesterday. Thank you so much for having staff and company and friends. We were able to talk to Wilkin Formby, Jaden Roberts, and Quay Russaw. Quite a trio. You get that name list into your hand and you think, oh, okay, that's
the Uglies.
Yeah. That's interesting. We haven't heard from Wilkin all spring because of different things. One of the reasons we heard was he missed a day or two just for illness. I think flu, cold, something. I don't think it was serious. Nothing that big of a deal. But for the first little bit of spring, we were told no Wilkin Formby. Fine, no big deal. They always have reasons and rules for different players, things that they're going through. And I guess his was illness for the time being. hearing from him yesterday, and I hear like as soon as the list comes out, I'm like, I want to go talk to Wilkin. And thank you, Katie, and thank you, Will Miller. That's who I got to talk to. Will Miller went and spent time with Jaden Roberts, and Katie Windham spent time with Clay Russaw. I just think he's so fascinating. I just think he's such a polarizing figure right now for Alabama football, and I think really it's not his fault at all to be so polarizing. He's done nothing to polarize you, but you guys are all insane people, and you've lost your brains after a week 3 poor performance, and now anytime Wilkin Formby's name comes up, you go fly off the handle and think, he can't protect anybody. Is he going to be any good? He's just favorite. You get the favoritism, you get the silliness. Like
I've seen that argument, and I will say I have not seen that argument as much as I've seen other things, but that is certainly out there. The whole like they're playing favorite because he's a Tuscaloosa. That is the stupidest argument I have ever heard.
Mason, how long did it take Brian Robinson to get on the field?
Come on, people, what are you talking about?
And that's not disrespectful to you, Brian.
It's just like that is not even in these coaches' heads where these players are coming from, and whether that has anything.
Am I really going to get myself fired for playing the hometown boy if he stinks? That is a really, really, really dumb thought. Like I'm sure Kalen DeBoer thinks highly and likes Wilkin Formby just as a person. Great. But Kalen DeBoer's wife, I'm sure, also likes Wilkin as a person and thinks highly of him, wants the best for him. But Kalen DeBoer's wife wants Kalen to be employed for another year, 10, 30, name your length. That's how long she wants him to be employed. He's not going to, I'm just coaching one of the highest level coaching jobs. I need to make it, or I just, it's going to make him feel good. He chose to stay here. He didn't go to Ole Miss. He chose to stay here instead of going to, so we just got to play him.
No, that's not the attitude. I do think Wilkin has earned this.
He's so polar, and that's what makes him so fascinating to me. I think he's so polarizing, but is he any different than any other high-level recruit that comes to Tuscaloosa? Red shirt's a first year, plays a little, has some spotty moments in a second year, and now is here for a third year, redshirt sophomore, and in line to like fully take a start. Like, is that any different than any other long term?
High path we've not seen before.
He's so polarizing, and I think it's just foolish. I think it's foolish. I think it's polarizing because of the hometown factor. I think he's polarizing because he's on the Taco Casa commercials. Which why wouldn't you be on the Taco Casa commercials? Like that does. Think for a second, people. I'm going to be on the commercial for my father's business, for my mother's business. Like, this is the NIL era. Great. Perfect. Duh. He's so polarizing because of the poor performance against South Florida, sure. And I think because of how well Elijah Pritchett played when he got subbed in to that South Florida game. But, folks, I don't think that any of that's an indictment on Wilkin. I think it was an indictment on Elijah Pritchett. It's an Elijah Pritchett in Nebraska now. Got himself a nice little bag. Great. Good. Awesome. Perfect. Hope you're great with the Huskers. No hate whatsoever for you. This isn't from a personal standpoint, but like
Patrick Mahomes,
But my thought is, you're sitting here last year, Wilkin might be, might not be, maybe might not be. Elijah Pritchett has shown you all the physical tools, but you cannot get the man to plug in mentally. You can't get the guy to do the little showing up on time. It
always felt like he was lacking the little detail piece.
Exactly. And so he flips the switch in the South Florida game last year because, frankly, he's embarrassed, and you need to. And you're in the last 15 snaps of the game, so here you go, buddy, save us. And he does. Great for you. I don't think anything about last year's was, Wilkin, you just stink. You're not a good player. I think this is the natural development of an offensive lineman in college football.
I agree with you. I think this is something we have seen. I mean, I don't know how many times.
Am I just a fool because I saw him play at Northridge and because, like, when I see somebody for a long time, I start to, think the best of them and think better for it. I don't know. But I mean,
maybe a little bit of it. I mean, sure. I think any of us have our own. I do the same thing with players that I see in person. I have a bit of a different opinion on them than players I haven't seen in person. So there's probably a bit of inherent bias there. But I also think you make a really valid point in that this is not a strange path. We have seen this play out exactly like it is. I mean, I couldn't tell you how many times with insert 4-star, insert 5-star. Oh, they're going to the freshman. Oh, the red shirt. They weren't good enough to get on the field. Oh, what? That's okay. We're going to the next year. And the next year they get thrown out in week 4. And it's, oh, they dropped a pass. Oh, you missed your assignment. Oh, you whatever it is. You fumbled. Oh, God forbid. And then they just get cast into the darkness as this I don't know. It's ridiculous.
They make it black and white, and they don't realize it's a progression. They make the fan base makes it sucks or great, makes it amazing or worst ever, best I've ever seen or worst I've ever seen, and it's a progression here. Like Evan Neal is unusual because he came here and started as a freshman on the offensive line, and even he started at guard. Right, because you needed the space, and it's easier to work in and start in the guard. Like Alex Leatherwood, unusual. These super recruits, these recruits that Coach Saban used to get was like, oh, this freshman tackle is starting. Like, has brainwashed these people to make to make you think that Wilkin should have been day one Hall of Famer coming right out of Northridge. Yeah. And it's like,
you look at any other program across the country, you're not going to find a lot of true freshmen starting offensive line. It's just not a thing that happens often.
Did Jonah Williams start as a freshman? I think Jonah might have. Maybe. I think he might have. I'm thinking Alex Leatherwood. You go you search a little bit as a filibuster and just. Yeah, I don't think Ari did, but I think Cyrus started as a freshman. I'm pretty sure Evan Neal started as a right guard. I'm pretty sure that Alex Leatherwood started as a freshman for a period of time. Yeah. Barrett Jones played all 4 years on the line, but he wasn't always a tackle, moving interior. Oh, goodness gracious. DJ Fluker was not a freshman, was he not? He was a JUCO transfer. He was a JUCO transfer, I'm pretty positive. So he's to expect a young.
You just went across 20 years of football and named 4 names.
And I'm sure that there's one I'm missing or two I'm missing. Please drop it in the comments at JoeGaither6. But the point is, have a little patience. What did you say right when I brought up Wilkins' name? What did he look like?
No, he looks like a grown man. Like to anyone that has never actually seen what Wilkin for me looks like, he arrived on campus and he looked like he was 12 years old. He had a baby face of all baby faces. Like, it looked like the kid had never done anything. I saw a picture of him yesterday, maybe day before, whatever it is. This is the video. Like, he looks like a grown man football player now. He's got the beard. He is remarkably bigger. He is trimmed down. Like, he looks the part now. He did not look the part when he arrived here as a freshman.
I've been talking to this young man for 4 years now, since he was a senior at Northridge. That's about I think that's the first year I started with high school football at 109. And to your point, the voice he gave us yesterday was not the voice I heard 4 years ago. Yeah, guys. Hey, guys. Having a sweating contest with Jaden Roberts. Just like, and I'm not trying to embellish, and I'm sure that probably makes him sound bad. That's not what I was trying to make him sound manly.
He's grown up right before our
yes. And speaking of growing up before our eyes, I do want to take it. The interesting. He talked yesterday about dealing with the fan nonsense, and people were asking about if he gets off social media, and he's like, "Nah, I'm not really on social media, but it was more direct messages." Dude, do not direct message these people.
They are kids. They are just kids. Like, at the end of these are 18 to 22-year-olds. In very rare cases, you're getting your 23s and up.
How many? You're married, so it's even less for you. But how many DMs are you in, Mason? I mean, you're trying to get to the high school kids. That's fine.
Of anyone that's not my lovely wife, I would say a select small group of friends.
I'm sorry. How many Ryan Tannehill DMs did you ever fire off?
Not one. Although he deserved them. He deserved them.
Sure. Negative thoughts in your heart. Okay. You deal with it. But guys,
it's ridiculous. do we even think that the message you send these athletes is going to reach them, one, and if it does reach them, they're going to give a damn about it, two. You are putting so much value on yourself that is non-existent. It's very self-important. It's very, I think of myself as, oh, this player, he wants to hear my opinion on how.
Yes.
I do not give a damn about what you have to say.
That's the funny part. It's like, I think people don't understand a lot of the times how these direct men. If I didn't know Mason Woods and I want to message him some, hey, your show stinks. Your show stinks. More often than not, it sits in this file that says requests, and Mason never sees it.
Yeah. People, just use your time more. Use your time. I just, if you find yourself wanting to message a 19-year-old college football player because, God forbid, they fumbled or they dropped a game-winning touchdown, maybe just walk outside, take a couple deep breaths, get yourself a drink, just take it easy. It's golly, people. I will never understand the tweeting at, messaging, whatever it is, athletes to like tell them that they busted your parlay or something. That's even worse. Golly.
It's like, do you not think I was trying? I was, it was me in the arena. It was my face in the mat. It was my face in the dirt. I didn't want my face in the dirt. I know you were comfortable in the stands, but the scars and scratches on my face hurt. Oh yeah. So he goes and basically says, "Oh, I learned how to manage that a little bit." And kind of seems like there's not even any question marks really at the right tackle position, which is fine to me, and I'm not trying to make one at all. What I wanted to go to, Mason, you're an offensive lineman. I did not play offensive line. Yesterday, when I was talking to Wilkin, and how do I say this respectfully? I didn't want to be near you, Wilkin.
That's valid. No, that's totally valid. I still remember what I used to smell like.
And I want to say that as a compliment. Wilkin leads his press conference off with, "Oh, sorry, guys." Like, basically right off the bat. And we're like, "For what?" And he's like, "Oh, sorry, guys. I'm just all nasty, sweating." And yeah, we see this. He goes, "Me and Jaden Roberts have a contest every day." And Jaden's like 10 yards away. We have a contest every day to see who can sweat the most. And we're like, that's exactly. He goes, "Well, we used to." He said, "We used to." He said, "We used to let the dietitians decide." But he said, "But now we do it when we do abs on the floor. Whoever's puddle is larger."
Oh, that's awful.
Oh,
that's exactly what you want your big up.
And I'm just like, I must take a step back.
The poor intern that has to go in there and clean that up. The poor student that has to go in there and clean up after them, wipe it down.
Take a hose to the floor.
Oh man, it's a Lysol wipe, buddy. It's the sweat is very real.
Jaden estimated 10 pounds of practice. He said, I think about 10 pounds.
I did obviously not play football at the level they are playing currently.
You did?
There were moments where, in the middle of...
How many scholarships did you turn down?
0. I didn't get it. There was definitely times in like the summer where it's 98 degrees, you're out there at 7 in the morning, it's hotter than hell. And like you go in, because we would have to weigh in before and after practice, and you weigh in, and you would lose 7, 8, 10 pounds sometimes of just pure water weight, basically. That was not like a crazy thing. That definitely happened a handful of times. I had to get thrown in the ice bath once, getting overheated. That was fun. That was a good time. Shove ice packs up under your armpits, and then that was good.
That makes me think about the Junction Boys movie where the kid died. Talking about the Bear Bryant days back in the Texas A&M, they had a kid in that movie. I'm pretty sure it's part of the story. That part of the story was true, where one of the Texas A&M boys passed away under Coach Bryant.
I mean, it can happen. Heat exhaustion is a very real thing. I mean, like it kind of sneaks up on you where you just think, oh, I'm hot, whatever, and then you realize like I'm not sweating like I'm supposed to be. Next thing you know, you're lightheaded, and everybody's huddled around you with ice packs trying to cool you down. Good times.
So let's talk about this offensive line because they made it sound very solidified yesterday. Obviously, left guard still a problem. Still not a problem. Still a question. Still a question. Wilkin was very forthright yesterday about these are things I struggled with. I struggled with the power rush a little bit last year, just certain things. And he said, these are what I'm doing. He said, I'm meeting with Coach Kapilovic. This is what I'm doing. After practices, and he said, oh, me and Parker is personally working with me on my anchor. And so
You're personally working with.
right. I think that you obviously right now in spring, you don't have a left tackle because Caden Proctor is limited / out. So you're looking at a bunch of freshmen, bunch of children playing left tackle. Who cares right now? That's fine. But like when you project for the spring, I don't want to fall into this trap again, Mason. Every off season for the last 4 off seasons, this offensive line gonna be good. This offensive line gonna be good. Gonna get after some people. And here we are. Like I was 2 feet away from you, Wilkin, and yeah, you would block the heck out of me. You would block lots of people into the dirt. And Jaden Roberts looks like somebody I don't want to tangle with at all. And I wouldn't know who would want to tangle with him. But the last 4 years we've done this dance. In the last 4 years, it's been, Bryce Young winning the Heisman, running for his life. Oh, can't get a traditional run game going without Jalen Milroe. So where should I settle? That's that leaves me here. Where should I settle?
I think, a good place.
Second year Chris Kapilovic, that's thumbs up.
That's great. I think there's a lot of positive signs pointing to this offensive line having a good season. I think it is, maybe just go in with low expectations and be happily surprised. You look at last year; they were not on whole. What would you give this offensive line last year? C-?
No, better than that. But
C+, B-?
No better than a B.
Really?
No better than probably 83 at the tops, probably 75 at the lowest.
Sure.
Not good enough to get to the college football playoff. We'll say that.
And I don't, obviously we've seen off-season things happen. We've seen stories and we've seen players talk. And we've not seen any real tangible evidence to tell us that this offensive line is any better than last year. So I think going in with a similar baseline expectation of what you saw last season, which, would be, they'll probably be okay. They'll be above average, but they're not going to wow anybody. And then, hey, if they come out, and you dominate Florida State week 1, that might be pretty impressive. And then you go on and let's just be pleasantly surprised. Hopefully. I think if you go in with lower expectations, you can't be disappointed.
I think it probably hinges on the tackles. Pun intended. I think it probably hinges on the tackles because I think you look at Caden Proctor and you look, measurables, you see that's a first-round draft pick. That's an NFL first-round draft pick based on height and weight and maybe what he can do in the weight room. I don't think you've seen a first-round draft pick for 2 seasons. Now, freshman year, come on, guys, let's be honest. Let's have some perspective. I don't think you saw a first-round draft pick last year as a sophomore, but again, you're a sophomore. You're not supposed to be a first-round draft. You're not even eligible.
Sure.
I think that if
– Did you see a first-round pick last year?
No, that's what I'm saying. No. His second year, no. First-year freshman, definitely not.
Yes.
Last year, sophomore.
So
if he were eligible to be drafted – third or fourth rounder, third round, and only because of how valuable the position is. Right. You're looking at every turn for a left tackle. Yes. And left tackle, we don't care. What's your measurables? We can teach you. I think that he probably, and you're probably getting the one person who's listening thinking, Joe, you're crazy. He's a first rounder. I mean, he might be. He could be, but he's got to step forward in his game to me. And I think he can do that. Wilkin, I think you're just trying to get really serviceable right tackle play. I think you're trying to get quality run game, quality play in the run game. I think you're hoping that Wilkin gives you 2 years, is not flirting with an NFL draft at the end of this year. I think if he were flirting with the NFL draft and took a step up in his game, he would probably be a third rounder in 12 months.
Yeah, that feels pretty fair.
But if Proctor does nothing 12 months from now, I think he's probably a third rounder.
Yeah.
I think that Formby has to definitely take a big step forward to get up into that. But he can. I think you're hoping. I think if you're in Alabama, you're hoping for a step forward 1 through 5. You're hoping for Olasa Lennon / my man from A&M.
Cam Dewberry.
Dewberry, thank you very much. You're thinking about Cam Dewberry / Olasa Lennon playing left guard, and you're hoping for Caden Proctor to take a big old step forward, get himself as a first-round draft pick. You're hoping for Parker Brailsford to play just like he did last year, maybe a hair better. I think Parker was really good last year. And he will end up being a second-round draft pick probably just because of the position. Right. And then you're looking at, okay, Jackson Lloyd, you're moving into left tackle. You keep Wilkin right there at right for his senior that would have been his redshirt junior year, which we're projecting into 26. And you've got yourself okay. By that point, Jaden Roberts has moved on, and you're moving in Micah DeBose, Michael Carroll right there into that spot. I am encouraged by what I see in this position group, but I'm also like hearing myself for the last 4 years talk about potential, and not seeing some of it pan out.
It's been very exhausting to talk at length about. It's going to be a great offensive line, one of the best offensive lines we've seen, only to get into the regular season, like you said, for now, 4 years in a row, and it being mostly a disappointment compared to what the expectations were. Not to say they've been horrible. You know, we graded them. I mean, you're right in that kind of B range. You're above average, but considering the talent you have,
right, and what
elite.
Where you're trying to go too. Yeah, that's the issue. You could not get a traditional run game at all last year. It was horrific, and I don't know if that's was Nick Sheridan's fault, Jalen Milroe's fault, or the 5 offensive linemen's fault, or everyone together collectively. It was just drove me nuts. You can cry about pass protection all you want. That's fine. Run the football. Run the football, please. Like basics. All right, Mason, we got to get off the offensive line. We're going to have Katie join us in just a couple of minutes, and I have 2 topics that I want to throw at you that are not really that deep, but interesting to me. Coastal Carolina is offering free concessions at football games this year. Greg. Hey, Greg, can we get this story on your desk? Doctor, sir, president, father, whatever respectful title you want, Greg Byrne, athletic director, please look at this story. Now, I don't think we'll ever do this at Alabama, but this is crazy.
Is there a limit?
Yeah. You get nachos, hot dogs, fountain drinks, and popcorn are on your list. Limit 4 items per trip.
Come on.
Per trip. I go past the hot dogs back to mom and the kids, and I go back to the yes.
I'm coming out of there with like 8 sets of nachos. I mean, I am eating a 12-course meal at the Coastal Carolina football stadium.
Yes, exactly. You're thinking about, and all of this is to get butts in the seats, right? That's all it is. We want to get butts in the seats or try. Look, how nice we all talk about it. Oh, I can see better in my living room. I got my snacks in my living room, in my kitchen. Oh, my bathroom is 2 steps away, and no line and no nastiness in the bathroom. Like, that's what these athletic directors are battling first, and then it's really expensive to take a family of 4 out to the game, and and it's parking and it's concessions, and my 4-year-old's gonna be hungry and gonna throw all the popcorn on the ground, and I'm gonna pay $12 for a popcorn. My 4-year-old's gonna eat 3 kernels of it, and I'm gonna be angry. Like, I'm sorry, this is taking the Atlanta Falcons playbook to the 10th level, and I love it.
Yeah.
What's the cost of hot dogs, popcorn, soda? You're putting nacho chips on a tray, and to the squirt of the nacho, like
a gallon bag of cheese.
I love it.
I think it's great. I think it's awesome. Obviously, I don't know what the actual finances are, but they're doing it. So there's no way that they're losing that much money on it before it's really going to affect them horribly. I'm sure if they start getting, a crap ton of butts in seats, this will probably change. But this is a good way to get people into the stadium. It's awesome. I think, I love the idea of just like, you're just looking for an easy, cheap sporting event to go to. Like, this is perfect. Go to a Coastal Carolina football game. Obviously, for many of us and our listeners
Sure.
will be out of town, but for anyone close to it, if you ever have the opportunity, like, it seems like it's a pretty fun thing to do. Oh man, I love this so much.
Okay, not that one because that's at South Carolina. Coastal Carolina, Charleston Southern and Coastal Carolina. This looks like the season opener. Yeah, September 6th. $28 each. $28 tickets. Right there for rows 1 through 5 right there. $28. Let's keep going a little bit. How many tickets for you? Eastern Carolina. Okay, a little more expensive. Eastern Carolina Coastal is $84 for a ticket. Let's keep going. Louisiana Monroe, $44 tickets. Marshall, okay, that's a prominent game, I guess. It's going to cost you $50 to get in. Right now, let's see, Georgia State is at $50 again. So, look, our prices are pretty reasonable. Pretty reasonable prices to get in.
You can see the ticket for $200.
Perfect. And hey, man, no food on Saturdays. Our budget is at the stadium.
That's pretty sweet.
We're gonna eat right when we get in. We're gonna eat at halftime, and we're gonna eat in the fourth quarter again. And that way, no, we're not gonna stop in the drive-through. We don't have to go into the pantry at home. We're full on stadium hot dogs. How many they're free, Mason Woods, over a course of what is it, 4 hours, 3.5 hours? You're hungry. Let's make that the caveat. You are hungry.
Do they serve alcohol that you can pay for in this stadium?
I believe. Well, I don't know. Let's find out.
That's what I'd like to know. If I can buy a couple libations.
Coastal Carolina alcohol policy. Okay, that's for the campus.
I'm looking at season ticket. I mean, this is right on the 50-yard line. We're talking 1, 2, 3, 4 rows up. For $150 plus an $80 donation. That's pretty sweet.
Sounds like we are adopting the Chanticleers as our second team here.
That's fine with me. The great logo, great colors. I think teal is underused in sports. I'm all for it.
Hold on, Mason. Say something.
Hello. Oh, now I'm back in my ear.
Yeah. Katie was texting me saying that your audio was not great. Say hello to Katie. See if she.
Hello. You got me?
It's like the echoey, like not coming through his mic sound. Like when it sounds like it's probably coming through your mic, Joe. Sorry to come on with the technical difficulties.
5, 6, 1, 2, 3. Here on the Joe Gaither Show, we sometimes deal with technical issues, but we always get it out of them because we know what we're doing with the board. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Why don't you say hey to Katie and get her roll?
Now, I can't hear you.
I know.
Katie, can you hear me?
I can hear you, but it's like not coming through your mic.
Still not any better.
Unplug your can. It says it's coming in here. Well, that's really nice. That's really nice. Now everything's all fun. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Hello.
I bet you I hit something over here that messes up. I'm gonna start with Katie. I'm gonna start with Katie.
Arranged everything, but
No, I'd rather get it right, and it's gonna drive me nuts. I did not do anything differently. That's what I didn't do.
The old sticky note.
Thanks for joining us on today's edition of the Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central. Keep up with Joe on all his social media pages at Joe Gaither6. Subscribe, rate, and review the show on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and be sure to read us daily at BamaCentral.com.